Episode number 90 of People I Know Show. I'm Kurt Carstensen, joined today by Krizia Almoite. Did I get your name right? You
Yes.
you have a of the people I know, Krizia. Your name is somewhat unique. Would you say so?
Yeah, it is very unique. And for the longest time, I used my American friendly name, which is Maria, for that reason. But now we're back.
You're back. So you switched this relatively recently. What
Yeah.
was the motivation for that?
Well, I used to work at corporate America, and in the Philippines, we go by our second name because most of us have Maria as our first name. It's a very Catholic country. So when I moved here, they use first name. So I was thinking like, should I use Krisha or Maria? Like, I don't want to have to explain the difference or just like everyone knows how to say Maria. And I kept it. They think I'm French. So it helps me with interviews. So I'm like, yeah, I'm French for this interview. Let's go. But now that I started my own business, I'm like, you know what? I can use my name and you guys can learn my name. So here we are.
Well, the cat's out of the bag. You're not French, so
Nope.
we won't have to
A
pretend.
disappointment.
No, it's very much okay. I think you're very unique and interesting without being anything but who you are. And you just mentioned your business. We met a number of years ago initially, and we can chat a bit about that later. But much more recently, I did a photo shoot with you. You
Mhm.
are a photographer, and you have some other social media, and you can get in, you can explain all this to me. But with the photo shoot recently, we reconnected, I think, mostly because I saw what you're doing, your work online, and I thought I should do this just in case. I don't know. I'll do a photo shoot, and maybe you'll make me look really, really good, or something
It
like you
turned
see.
out really good though.
It,
People haven't seen it yet.
it did. I think with the release of this conversation, I'll begin to post the photos to let people.
Good.
So tell
Feel
me.
good? Did you feel good with the shoot? Like, I mean, no pressure.
I felt good. Yeah, I felt like I belonged getting my photo taken, which in the past, I don't always think that that was something I thought. But in that setting, you made me feel good about it. And the photos turned out great. And then you touch them up a little bit. And then I look like someone I don't even recognize. I recognize me, but I look better than I've ever looked in a photo, I think.
It looks great. It's all you. It's all you.
So how did this come to be? I know you told me the story a little bit, but you were not a photographer very many months ago, and suddenly that's like your main job. You have your own business. What all this?
Yeah, I mean, like we've known each other, what, like 5 years of each
We're
other?
pushing 7 or 8 now, but yes.
Oh shit, yeah. So, well, as like you've seen me try all these different hobbies, like brain research, comedy, like whatever it is. If I'm into it, I do it for like 110%. And with the quarantine and working from home, it initially started with like landscape. I just want to get out and all that. But in July, I'm like, okay, like maybe I should use my camera. I bought this camera like last December, like maybe like the 2019, and never touched it until July of 2020 because I was overwhelmed. I didn't know the technicalities, but I'm like, I want to try it and see how it goes. So the first month of learning it, I did 40 photo shoots because I'm excessive. Then I lost my job in August 22nd. And I figured, well, I really like what I'm doing. And I think that I should just make it official. And hopefully it will work out. So I registered as a business 5 days later. And now here we are. We've done a lot, but it's been really fun. I've never had a job where it's literally like what I would do for fun. And like I'm more passionate about photography than I've ever been, even compared to brain research. So
The
yeah.
brain research is an interesting topic, and I do want to follow up with that. But I noticed, and you have, for someone that was very new to a career like photography, where I swear there's a billion people that either are photographers or want to be photographers and are acting like they are on Instagram. You went from being someone that wasn't really a photographer to someone who's getting a lot of good gigs relatively quickly. How did that happen?
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I okay, so I think I'm a really good marketer, mostly because I share a lot of my stuff on social media, and I always just I don't know, I'm just like an ad. I'm a walking advertisement in anything I do without even trying to be an ad if I like something. So when now it's my business, obviously I'm going to share my work, and I think I really love what I'm doing, that I'm constantly creating and reaching out to people. But I post a lot of my work even before I was better. But people see how my work evolved. And I think, like they want to support that person's journey and like trust you. And then word of mouth evolved. Then fast forward, like, like I was the director found me on social media for the movie that I did, all because I post everything on social media.
You do
So
post a lot, and we, before the photo shoot, met in person less than 5 times over the course of the 7 years that we knew each other. But I do feel like I know you because we're connected on social media, and you do
post a
post
lot.
a lot of different things. And a lot of times I pay attention to it. And sometimes, honestly, it's too much for me and I pass through it. But in the long run, I've gotten to know you, what you like, and what your interests are and your personality. And I guess it somehow it works. And I'm probably not the only one out there that something about you over the long run. I feel like I know you better than maybe I should, based on our amount of interactions one on one.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like people invest in the person more than your services, right? Like, and that's kind of how I approach my business, is that I like sharing my journey, or like what got me to where I am today, because I think it's important. If you make the connections with your friends and your new followers, they are more likely to understand like why you want this so bad, and whether you know it or not, people are watching, even if they're not engaging in your content. And but you also shouldn't be posting to just please others. Like, just really be true to who you are, and whoever likes you generally will stay and stick around and watch you grow. I mean, if you've known me that long, you've seen all the different faces that I've had. Like, it's they're all different. And here you are.
And you're not shy about sharing what your interests are or what's going on in your life,
No.
which, and it does, I think it does, as you express that, it does come from a part of you that's, you're not like trying to make sure everyone knows about you. You're just being open and letting
Right.
that land where it might.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like if you focus too much on like what people think, or if you're posting content based on your audience, they're not going to last. You're not going to get the true followers that generally love your content. So you just have to straight stay true to who you are, and also like share a part of your personal life so people can connect with you. And I think that's how I got people to like trust me with pictures, for having so little experience and scaling it to that level.
And as we continue here, just so for someone that's able to click on to your Instagram page or whatever other social media account right now, where can someone find you and to look through some of
Um,
your work?
Instagram is a good spot. It's called Krizia Studios, and you might have to just write that down because my spelling is weird. But yeah, like I post a lot of my stuff on there, and I often like either talk about social media and like how I do that side of things, or just like all the pictures that I do. And I really love it because it's like a storytelling, but it's really about your relationship with people. Photography is more than it is like purely creative and technical, and that's why I like it.
It's been only a few months, maybe not even 6 months so far since you started your business, but I'm aware that you have a few really interesting and fun and exciting opportunities that have come about. Go through one or two of those that you really think are something you couldn't have pictured happening until it happened.
Yeah, well, I would say the biggest one was the movie. Yeah, because that happened 2 months after I registered my business in August. So like October, I got a message from this guy, and he said, "Hey, he has a movie," and I'm like, I mean, I thought it was not real, but they saw my work on social media because I post a lot. And I'm like, I knew that one day this will work. This me being annoying and promoting my work will work. But no, it was actually real, and it was the best experience of my life. I've met amazing connections that I still talk to this day, and like collaborate and create magic. And uh, I would say that's the highlight of the whole thing. But um, yeah, I mean, that's like surreal. I mean, people, like always just credit me for being lucky because, I'm so new. But at the same time, I did literally 40 photo shoots in the first one, or in like 35 or something in the second one. So I obsess when I love something, and that obsession turned into like a ton of practice in such a short amount of time. But I think since I'm not a photographer like by trade initially, I was not afraid to try and push the boundaries with photography. I want it to be different. I want to create things that are not just basic. So like my the pool shoot that I did, and all these other creative things. Actually, people remember me because of the unique shoots that I did, since I wasn't afraid to try them.
And did that go over well with the movie? And I know the movie, I mean, this is the middle of a pandemic and it didn't quite go as planned. I know they had probably hoped to shoot an entire film, but too many things happen that'll cause you, I believe, to go back at a later time. What did you learn from that experience, knowing that you're going to get to go back and do it again?
I
What
mean,
might you do better?
I mean, it's COVID, so there's a lot of like challenges that comes with that. But we will be back. We don't know exactly when yet, but sometime maybe November next year. But it's actually perfect because now I'm using this time to really improve the things I want to improve on, such as like lighting techniques and more technical stuff. So when I come back there, it's going to be my photography game would be in a different level and hopefully do it justice. So it's for the best. And I love that I met the people that I've met because we still create to this day. So I'm just trying to keep that momentum of excitement and creativity and all of that.
Can you describe some of the photos that your style might be different? Maybe it's you're more aggressive in some ways or whatever describes it. What do you think you're doing differently that you don't see a lot of that people might really like?
Ooh, well, my style, like, so my goal is to move to Hollywood. Who knows if it'll happen, but I really love elaborate photo shoots. Like, I want people to wonder what I'm gonna do next because frankly, I don't know either. So I want to like come up with insane elaborate shoot and like really like push hard. Lately, I've noticed that my work, I think my style is more like vibrant, bold colors for sure, and just like very elaborate shoots, like the airplane shoot vintage vibe that I just did. That was really cool. Or just like everything from like composition to styling and all of that is like what really sets me apart because if I don't do something unique and different, there's a lot of good photographers out there. You know what I mean? Like I need to like do what makes me happy, which is like Vogue style editorial shoot, and just be creative and like try something different. So yeah, my work is very like elaborate, and just colors are my thing. Like you can tell that I love the saturation of my colors, but yeah, I don't know. It's not basic, is what I can say.
It's different. It stands out visually.
Yeah.
But in my life, I've got a handful of people that are photographers that I know roughly as well as I knew you before deciding to do a photo shoot with you. And it's not like I wouldn't have done or wouldn't do a photo shoot with them. I never really thought about doing a photo shoot myself until I saw your photos and the way you were presenting it online. And I think also the way you're trying to find people to do photo shoots with, something about
What
the
I
way
mean,
you
what did I do? I'm sure
well,
I do a lot of things.
well, I think initially, that maybe the first time the idea hit me was you were looking for people to do it free of charge just so you could build a portfolio. And I think I said I would do it, but then I didn't really put much effort in. It might have been a time where I didn't
For
have a
the
lot of
online
time.
dating one? Is that for the online dating
Yeah, I
shoot?
think because you do some, as you market to men for online dating as one thing. And I thought, well, I could do that and see what happens. I
Uh,
wasn't I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm in desperate need of that, but I'm curious what difference that would make. And I've started a little bit to see. I haven't quite run the experiment well enough yet to know if that's making a difference, but I do think it helps. But I don't know, something about the way that you market really captured my attention and made me want to try this with you. So as you think about how you market, how do you market that you think is special or better, or you understand it better?
Right. Again, I don't know, but like my Instagram, I never really flat out say, be like, hey, hire me. It's more kind of like I'm showing my work constantly in the difference and just kind of like, hey, you like for men, let's talk about the online dating portion, for instance. Like I online dated for like years. And by experience is that I would see a lot of like pictures from men and then I meet them and they're like way prettier in person, like hotter in person than their picture. And I'm like, I wish that you would have taken a proper photos. However, I know men typically just don't like the idea of hiring photographers for a shoot because they feel vain. But like the pictures they have are either blurry or like with all their friends, like it doesn't do them justice. And so for me, it's coming from a place of experience. Like I want to help them, like get you the right photos and analyze the data of like what works and what doesn't, and go from there. But I think me being open and sharing everything about my life really helps get people to like give me a chance, because I always talk about either in the process of having photography as my main business, I tell everything on social media. So
Yeah.
I feel like people like resonate with me because they feel like they know me because I share everything. um I don't know. Yeah, that's my side of things.
And maybe there's a cumulative effect of it helping, of you sharing some of your online dating woes. Like you don't seem to have many positive online dating stories from what you've posted over the years on your stories. So haven't you, or is it, or are you kind of focusing on the more interesting, less successful stories more than some of the good ones? Or is it really that hard to find a guy that is in person what you think he is online?
Well, uh, so I online dated for like years, but recently I haven't as much. But I mean, it's hard because you get fetishized a lot being Asian, so that's not fun. But also just like, yeah, it's a really just bad experience. Initially, I mean, I've met amazing people, obviously, but I think it's the whole the fetishization of Asians that really stood out, and that's why I made that Instagram account for all the Asian specific messages that I got. But yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking it down too much because I've met amazing people on there, but I just came out of it being like, I wish I can take your photos because none of this like is a representative of who you are. Like they're usually a lot better looking in person than they are on their profile pictures. So that's where that like interest came from.
Yeah, I think it's probably very common where someone is more attractive in person than their photos, or it could be the opposite, where they use photos that don't really represent their current self. And so the whole thing is can be very much a lie. And I think making it as honest as possible is pretty important. So taking
Yeah,
better,
but
more
I
accurate
think
current
showcasing
photos.
it properly. I think like because women take more pictures in general and we're not afraid to hire photographers. It's just kind of normal for us. So I kind of want to normalize it for men too, because pictures are good. Like it's memories, you remember a part of your life. And I just want to remove the stigma. And when I was telling people my plan on Instagram about doing online dating pics, you have no idea how many people actually are so interested, but they don't want me to post their stuff. as clients because they want it to be as like low key as possible, which is fine with me. Like, but I help them with like which pictures to put too, because sometimes they'll do a photo shoot and it turned out great, but they don't know, they're choosing the wrong photos to represent them. So I like just help them. And that's like outside my photography service. It's like free. It's just like, let me help you. You know what I mean? Like, I think you need this.
And didn't you say we did not meet on an online dating website, but I did you I think you told me that I was the first guy that you met online, then met in person?
Yeah, yeah. We met at a Caribou in Ridgedale, I think, and I no, it was good, but I think the whole experience was just like not with you experience, but it's just like, oh, I feel weird because it's the first time I've met somebody online that I'm like, I was kind of awkward about it, but no, I think you've stuck around for years, like
Yeah,
a
I
long time.
you were interesting. We met on Twitter initially, and somehow randomly I think I found you, and we started chatting a little bit. And we played Words with Friends when that was a thing, and then we
Mhm.
met in person. And I think connected a year or two later. The dating part didn't really go anywhere, which is totally fine. That's happened many times, I'm sure, for both of us. But I
Yeah,
do appreciate meeting someone that stands out in a unique and interesting way. And over the years of staying
yeah.
connected with you, I've had my first photo shoot and I'm seeing all the cool things that you're doing, which is why I love meeting new people. It's one of the many
Right.
examples
Oh,
of why it's worth
it's
it.
exciting. And I'm definitely not your regular Minnesotan, like I am very different. So yeah, like I definitely like don't like blend in very well.
But as a part of your story, didn't you tried to blend in for a while, didn't you? Or at some point did you kind of give up on that?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I moved here when I was 15 from the Philippines, and I think, like you have your own identity crisis of like what you like and what you don't. I don't really quite understand, but I've always just been like Minnesota is very like like nice and polite and just not very strong opinions, and I have very strong opinions. So I think that's what like separates me is just I'm just very like I'm not afraid to have opinions or like thoughts that people may find different. But yeah, you just gotta stay true to that.
And through that time, you mentioned the brain research and a number of other interests that you've pursued that led up to this. Do you think that's just a part of you to find something new and go all in on it? Like, is photography going to be something that might pass in a few years? Explain as well as you know yourself. How does it go from one thing to the
So
other for you?
I know. Okay, so they're gonna get confused because I have so many different interests. But I'll quickly touch on the brain research. But when I moved here when I was 15, and I knew some English, but not to anything conversational, really. Like I knew it as very formal, like I can read it and stuff like that. But when I was learning, living in a new country with a new language, like learning new things in a new language and all that complicated stuff, like I was intrigued with how my brain works. So when I went to college, I got interested in cognitive psychology and like understanding how my brain was able to learn a new language and just, learn a new language and feel in a new language. So I studied cognitive psychology and I was basically it's like a way for me to understand myself. So that's where that came from. But yes, whenever I like something, I always put 110%. um, I think this journey, for the past 7 years is like me trying to find that passion, like where I fit in.
Mhm.
Photography, I've always been that person that wrangles people to take photos and just kind of like that camaraderie of things. And my close professor actually was the one who suggested that, hey, you should really actually learn photography and see how that goes because I think you have an eye for it. And that's when I take bad pictures. Like I can't edit at the time. But I just did it for fun because I always take pictures anyway, but I didn't realize like not only how much I love it and how much better I've gotten from it, but like people are actually wanting me to do their pictures and that's kind of evolved. And this one, I don't think it's something that's going to be I'm gonna be over with, for instance, because Krizia Studios is like a digital agency that I do like photography and social media. And those are two things that people either like my friends give me a hard time for, like make fun of me for always posting or taking pictures, but now I make money for it, which is amazing. Like this is literally second nature. And the fact that people pay me to strategize and like do pictures, like I'm literally doing something that does not feel like a job. And the longevity of that will be like unmatched. So yeah, I think I finally found my calling, and it took me years to find where I actually belong. But
Yeah, that's exciting to feel that. Did you really feel a shift in yourself when you came
yeah,
clean?
yeah. I mean, I was like, kind of depressed when I was doing corporate America. I mean, I've learned a lot from it. Like it helped me become a better business person in my own company. But it's just I wasn't waking up every day like being excited to do that. But sometimes your passion doesn't have to be your job either. But it was like, it's just, it was hard because my heart wasn't into it. But I don't know what my passion was. So I kind of felt like in a limbo of like, well, what do I do next then? Because then you get hired for the similar job you currently have. So when I really like photography and I lost my job, I'm like, you know what? I know I'm good at marketing myself and I know I'll figure it out. I can talk my way into jobs that I'm like, if I put all my eggs in this basket, like there's the chances of like actually making because I really love it. Like it's a lot higher. And I just worked a lot and build my portfolio. And yeah, like it's been very fun to wake up and love what you do. It sounds like a strange concept to me before.
And we're gonna have to in the next few weeks move forward with a strategy for me with my social media marketing. Here is my struggle, Krisha, is I enjoy making the podcast. I like having the conversation. Some of the editing work I don't mind that much, but at a certain point, after putting so much time into any one conversation, I just don't have that great of enthusiasm to keep on putting more and more time to do more social media, to do more video editing. At some point, I hit a wall where it's just I have other things I want to do. So, me expressing my situation like that, I don't know if that'll help you get to a conclusion of how to help me. But I feel like somehow adapting your approach, I think I could get better at
Oh,
it if I thought about it differently, maybe.
right. I mean, again, here's the thing on how I tell people is that if you know that marketing or using the social media strategy is like you don't want that, that's totally fine. And that's why like how I like help and come in and help people strategize because like uh, you're better with spending your time to doing what you love. So if you love doing the podcasting, then do that and hire somebody to do the back end things that are important but will take you forever because it's just not your interest. Like for me, for my website, for instance, like I know enough like like HTML and all that stuff, but I really just I like procrastinate so long if I do it. So that's when I'm like, okay, I should just hire somebody and have them do that because I wasn't making enough progress on it. So just identifying the strengths and weaknesses. Like I have stuff like that too, but um yeah, because at the end of the day, it's a lot, right? Because then you have your full time job, you have your podcasting, like, and to do it right, it's a lot. It's a lot to handle.
And I'm sure others can relate to this. A part of my personality is to not want to ask for help. I think I can do it myself and focus on improving the areas that might be my weaknesses. But truly, I think I learned, or I don't know if I learned because I keep doing it, that the things I'm weaker in, it's because I just don't enjoy it that much. And asking for help and getting help and paying someone a little money to do things that you don't like to do, that's to my advantage.
Mhm.
But I think that might be a struggle that goes well beyond me, where people don't know how
Right.
to manage this.
I think for me, the biggest differentiator is actually I'm not afraid to ask for help. Um, like where I'm at in life now is not just because, oh, I did it all by myself. It's like a collective effort, if anything. Because, like, let's say, like right now, my next goal is to go to Hollywood. I know it's big, it's a big dream, but I'm like, I don't think in impossible, right? I think that you need to have a plan in everything that you do. I'm like, okay, here's where I want to be. Here are the things that could go wrong, right? So I like put that here, and then how do I minimize my risk of failing? It's very like scientific when you think about it. So that way, it's like now I'm planning everything that could go wrong, and like what's my plan A to Z if I want to move to LA in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So I approach it in that sense. And then I'm like, okay, so I need more experience. Then I ask for help from people that I've met from the film, for instance. I'm like, hey, here's what I'm trying to do, and here's how I can help you. Can you like either, mentor me, or like, like tell them like what my weakness is, and reach out to people who's good at that and learn from them. So, and that's actually has helped me not only grow my connection, but them like really, investing in my growth. And I credit that for me not being afraid to like be vulnerable and ask for help, because really, like, I wouldn't be here today without everyone who has helped me get here. Um,
That's
yeah, but
pretty
I
much.
think there's no shame in that. There's no shame, like, because people love helping people. You know what I mean? Like, you would love somebody if they ask you, like, "Hey, like you're really good at public speaking, and like, doing this podcast. Can you teach me how you do it?" Like, you would love to help them if somebody asks you to do that.
Yeah,
But
I do help people when they ask. I'm happy to do it. But yeah, I think there's a part of me that doesn't want to ask too much or too often or too many people. Although when I have asked in the past, people tend to be helpful.
right, no, because seriously, like, for instance, like photography, when I was new, like lights are super intimidating to me, because it's super technical, and don't have a lot of experience. But I actually, when I was on set, I met a lot of people who are amazing at lights, and I told them like, this is my biggest weakness, and I'm like, I would love to learn from you. Like, I want to learn from you because I don't know. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable, is what I'm saying,
Mhm.
because people, like, that self-awareness is really good, first of all, but also they're happy to help you. And then if you're good at something that they may need help on, then you can also give back by helping them on that skill. But everything is like a collaborative effort, whether it's intentional or not. If that makes sense.
It does, and I think that's maybe a part of it. If you're both helping each other, if you're able to help each other, then I think when I know I can help someone else, then I don't feel like I'm taking. Because a recent conversation I had for the podcast, we got into a little bit with some people are givers, some people are takers. I don't want to be a taker. I don't want to feel like a taker. So if I think I'm giving as well as someone else is giving, then it's
Right.
great.
I think you have to, well, your true intentions, right? You know that you're not just a taker, right?
Yeah.
So I think I would not think of, oh, I don't want people to feel like they're being taken advantage of. But you can think of it as like, hey, look, this is something I need to work on. Like, I want to get better at that, I've identified as a weakness. And you seem to be really good at that. And I would love to help you. And then you can say, like, like, so I want this to be a mutually beneficial experience. Like, I'm good at XYZ. If you ever need help on those, I would love to help you back. So that way you're proposing something like, hey, I want to learn from you and be mentored by you. But also, here are the skill sets that I have. And if you need help on those, like, I'm happy to show you the ropes and tricks. So, you're like offering something. So you don't feel like you're just taking.
Yeah.
Because people love collaborating, and like, for me, it's important that I surround myself with people that are extremely like goal oriented, like I am, or aggressive about their dreams. I don't like being around people who tells me that things are impossible, because that's not going to help me like go wherever I want to go. But like, just being transparent and being, showing enough vulnerability, it makes you more human, and people like that. Like, just be genuine. Yeah.
I'm convinced that you'll get to Hollywood probably faster than you're anticipating, the way you seem to do things.
Well, I don't know. Like, I goal myself to like move there 2022. But here's what I've been doing so far is that now we have a plan. It's a plan, right? And I create different plans. I have like 5 to 7 different plans ongoing at the same time. Um, so if this doesn't work, I'm working on like 7 things, planting the seed to like get in there. And one of those will work. So my point is like, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and like use your network to like really be like, hey, here's what I'm trying to do, and here's how I can help you. Like, like I would love to work together. I've literally done that like a lot. And I just think that for me, I'm very aggressive at what I want, and I'm not stopping until I get there. So one way or the other, I will be there. But is it gonna be easy? It's likely not, because it's hard. A lot of people are trying to make it, but my biggest thing that I've learned in general is to don't think about all the ways it won't work. Like you have to think about all the ways it would, because that's literally what sets people from successful people and for those who are not successful. That if you tell me all the ways that it would fail, I'll tell you all the ways it would work, and I have a plan for that. And that mentality is like crucial, because you'll get discouraged along the way, but I'm not focused on my competition at all. I'm only focused on being better than I was yesterday. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but it really is like super important, because if I just think about like, how many amazing talent is in there, like then you're competing, you're trying to be better against somebody, and you're never going to win that fight. So you just have to like think of your own path and like collaborate with the right people, like share your story, and it will all work out. But you just have to compete with yourself and not.
Continually be better than the previous version of yourself.
Yeah,
That is an approach that I take. I want to keep on getting better and smarter and learn more
right.
and do different things.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And push yourself outside the box. And with photography, that's what I do. Like I I want people to be curious, like what is she gonna come up with next? Because I also don't know, but I post a lot of my content out there, because it also like challenges me to like push myself to ways I have never done before. So because you're just growing if you do that. And you just need to create and fail times 100. That's how you get better. Fail, it's not really failure, right? It's just kind of like, oh, now I know what doesn't work. You just gotta not be afraid to fail and try, and market yourself. Marketing is so important.
and that must have been your approach for a long time as you go through these different interests and put your focus on to one more than others. I see your arm in the video here, and those watching on the YouTube channel of People I Know show might see it, that you have a tattoo on your arm of, it looks like the solar system,
Yeah,
one of your interests.
yeah, as a neuron, very sciencey stuff. My favorite brain part. Yeah, I mean those are crucial to me, because I don't want to get into it because now I have too many different hobbies to confuse people. But in general, like brain and universe stuff, I think helps us understand who we are and why we're here. And that's basically the core of everything to me, where for my business, like why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? So understanding like my why is like helps me convey my branding more than just what I do. Because it resonates with people if they can identify with that.
And you shared recently on social media a Simon Sinek
Yeah.
YouTube video, a TED Talk that focuses on that question. He's given speeches and written books and probably become very famous and wealthy, helping people to understand their why. So was watching him at some point, did that help you get to this, or how did that come to be? And what is your why?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so yeah, Simon Sinek's messaging with the why is like really good, because then he he explained like why, like he gave an example for like Apple, for instance. They don't just say like, hey, we sell computers. He basically went on going by the why and explaining their mission and vision, and then how and then what. Because if you put because people are, at the end of the day, there's a lot of service providers that offer the same thing as you do, but why you, right? As to my why, I'm not really sure, but I because it's, I'm still learning as I go, but I really love people and data. Those are the two core things of my business that I really appreciate. I'm both really good at the data side of things, but I'm good with relationships and people, and combining understanding of people and that relationship building, and then supplementing with my data analytics part. So for their business, then I can use data to like solidify, like, here's the strategies and here's why.
Mhm.
But I want people to, like, I want to tell stories through images, but also like with social media, I want to help explain, like, each brand, each company's mission and vision to everyone. And because that's how people will follow you. If they can understand why you're doing something and why you have a passion at something, then people would love to see that journey, as opposed to just we sell X, Y, and Z. It's deeper than a transaction, I guess, is what I'm saying.
It's definitely deep, and I think maybe it's difficult for people to really understand themselves in that way. And after watching that video and I'd seen him, I think I'd listened to that book, his book on the topic, and seeing the video, and kind of looking at myself, trying to understand, what am I doing? Why do I have a podcast, for instance? And I don't know if this is specific enough, but then again, my podcast isn't specific, and it's not meant to be, where I boiled down my why to, I want to keep learning and growing and getting new experiences. So my why is to keep doing that. Plus, I want to help other people. So anytime something in my life or someone in my life helps me learn, helps me grow, shows me a new experience, and I think it was valuable to me, I want to put it back out there. So I'm talking to you
Right,
today
right. So you
because,
share each learnings from the people you meet to everybody. You're like that communicator, because you have meet all these amazing people, and you want to like share, I think, a piece of the thing you've learned from them, which is very admirable.
and I think, like, in our conversation, there's a ton of things that someone else might learn from you and I'm learning from you. But the thing about you is you somehow captured my imagination to make me think, oh, I could be a model for a day and get some professional photos done and then put them out to the world. No one else had done that before.
Well, here's the thing, like, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I just don't think in impossible things. Like, I moved here from the Philippines, right? And they're like, we're moving for the American dream. Like, the fuck is that? Like, we're basically moving there to be poor. like, why, right? But so since I basically gave up my life back home to be in this land of opportunities, I'm like, well, that shit better be real. Because why are people moving here? So I've always kind of like, I literally, like, my dreams are so big that if I tell people, they're just overwhelmed and they tell me it's too big of a dream. But what's the purpose of dreaming if it's too realistic? Because then it's a goal, right? You need to like have a dream so big, like really think about the ideal life, and then make it happen. And we were having this conversation when I was asking you your why. I think, remember when I was like, why, like, what's your dream? What would be the dream job? And I think you're just like, it made you think, but it's really like a good exercise to like, like, yeah, what would make me happy? I mean, I've been searching for this all along. It took me like so long to find it, but all my hobbies that I've tried, it led me to like just understanding what is something that makes me happy, and every time something does, I do it like excessively, like the brain research, the comedy, and all these things, until I find something that's like, wow, this is literally a dream job. I meet people all the time, and I like help them feel great about themselves, because I see beauty in people that sometimes they don't even see themselves, and I think that's super rewarding.
No, it is really special. I do think I'm the most attractive I've ever seen myself is in the photos you took of me.
I'm glad, and that's my goal. It's like, like sometimes it's hard to envision that, but I think my shoot at the end of the day, like a lot of people can take amazing photos, but for me, I think it's the feeling that people get during my session, because it's literally a conversation. Like, I want you to not think about what the next post is or if you're doing well or not. I want you to just enjoy it and have me capture the moments. and it will be the best photos of your life, hopefully. No
And,
pressure on me.
yeah, I think you can handle it. I'm pretty sure they will be the best photos. And if not the best photos, they're going to be pretty damn good and people are going to be happy with them regardless. I think as you're kind of going through your different hobbies that you're explaining and different interests that you've had, and then as I had that thought relate back to me with my podcast and my different guests, what I'm realizing is like I'm going to keep doing this podcast probably forever. Maybe not like I used to do it every week. Now it's every 2 or 3 weeks. But in the
Mhm.
meantime, I'm trying to identify the niche or whatever I'd be most excited to put out there more often, and that'll end up being the focus.
Well, can I tell you something about niche though?
Okay.
Because when I was starting photography, that's one thing people have told me, right? Like, 'cause I take pictures of literally everything, anything with people, right? That's kind of been my thing. And people are like, you need to find a niche. Like, are you going to be a wedding photographer, couples, maternity, like lifestyle? And I hate that idea of narrowing down to a niche. And that's been like my struggle this whole time because, I have so many interests. Like, and I hated the idea of like, oh, just doing this one thing forever to be successful. And I thought, I'm like, well, can I be successful without a niche? But I would say that I know my personality and I know that I would love to try different things. I've narrowed it down to people as my niche, like whatever it is. People accept infants, like it's a different beast to do infants. But and I'm glad I stuck to that because it allows me to like meet all kinds of people because I love people and I love data. I love meeting all kinds of people because everyone has a story. And now I do like what, like, film, like I want to do commercial, editorial, lifestyle, corporate headshots, like literally like everything that has to do with people because that's what I like. I don't need to put myself as like in one box. I'm not a one box kind of person, Kurt. Like
Oh,
I don't fit in a box, and I love that I stuck with that. I'm stubborn, and I'm like, well, it has to work. That's how I think of things, because I know that I would just like it's too one dimensional, and that bores me. I don't like that, but I know I'm good with people. I tried, like photography for like non-people things like real estate or like products. Products I do for like branding for social. But if I can't talk to the subject, I can't. I lose interest because it's too technical. It's not relationship building. You know what I mean?
so if the lights that you had were people somehow, which they're not going to be, you'd be more into learning about the lights. So you seem like to kind of dread that.
No, I mean,
No.
no, that's different because like technical, I mean, you need to learn technical and that's what I'm trying to do now. Like it's important, but I'm saying like in general, like when I was finding a niche, I'm like I learned that I hate inanimate objects, like things that are not people to take photos of because it's boring, it's just there. um but for product photography I can do when it's branding because it's a part of the story, it's a part of someone's business, so I like that because I can think of like fun ways to convey the branding.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just like a house, I can't. Like, I mean, I was able to do it fine, but like, I'm bored. Like, it's not. I don't do photography because of just the technical stuff. The people one is what, like, I really shine because I connect with people.
And
Really,
imagine you take a photo of a house, you know that it's a good photo, but the house doesn't know it's a
I'm
good
just
photo. The
bored.
house doesn't
Like, I
care.
can't. Like, I mean, it just exists. Like, and also like it's not for me. That's for sure. Like I've tried it, and I will not do as well as I do when it comes to people
And
because it's a connection that I have with people because I genuinely care about the people that I shoot. It's never transactional. Uh obviously like it's how I make my living, but I generally care about people's stories and like everything about them that I developed through connections from that. And you can't do that with like a car photography. Someone was trying to hire me for like sports cars and it would pay a lot, but I'm like, sorry, I can't. I'm like, I literally, I don't want to take it from somebody who would love to take pictures of cars, and I just it doesn't talk to me, and I can't. So that's where I've like kind of narrowed it down.
Yeah, so when you talk about niche and you kind of reject that the idea that a niche is for you, and I don't know that it's fully for me, but I think to explore different niches for at least for a while to see like the ones that catch my interest mostly, then I need to dive into it for a while at least and see where it goes while still doing what I'm doing. Like I'm not going to stop interacting
Well,
with a
I think
variety of people.
yeah, and you can think of it as like your podcast can be like whatever you want it to be. The world is your oyster. That's how I think of it. It's like it doesn't matter if it fits the rules, right? You
Yeah.
just have to do whatever interests you. And if you start talking about other, like I mean, I know it's a people I know show, but it's like, but just explore it and evolve in front of your followers. I think you're gonna get more like loyalty from that because I mean, it's good to explore things. I'm not saying to not, but I'm saying to you don't feel the need to like, oh, I have to just do one thing. But again, I'm a little bit eclectic, so I don't know.
The thing is, it wouldn't be just one thing. It would be doing this plus the next thing and just kind of doing all of it and doing more. So I need to, like right now, one of my struggles is I wonder, like I don't always get as much done in a day as I want. And I think it's because I have a lot of interest right now and I'm putting
But
time
I
into
also
it.
have a lot of interest, as I've shown, and
Yeah.
like, and that's the thing. Like, but I don't think any of that was a bad thing. I know, like, for people like you who've known me for that long of a time, you've seen me like have different interests. Um, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think you just gotta follow what interests you and just do that. And even though it can feel like super out of place for other people, like if they can tell that you're trying to do something that really intrigue you, that's gonna resonate to people. Because like, like you've seen me when I was doing all like the other things, like intensely. but you're here because you've seen me evolve as a person and my interest evolve. So my point is I think if you like just be authentic, and even if that includes like evolving interests, like no one's gonna like hate that, like I think it's actually gives people like a more raw version of you because you're like, just hey, I'm interested in this now and I want to see where that goes. So you just do it. Like I don't know. I guess I don't really think about what people think of me, and able to disregard those kind of worries.
Yeah, that's something I've nearly eliminated from it. That used to be a huge part of who I was, concern for what other people thought of me. Now it's very minimal and I think oftentimes not there at all. So it's a matter of what do I really want to be doing and how do I want to spend my time and when I spend that time, does it feel like it's taking no time at all because I love it so much? And that's just what I want to keep on
Right.
finding those things that make me feel that way, which happens occasionally, but doesn't maybe happen enough. So I'm keep continue to explore until I've landed on the next thing that makes me feel that way.
Yeah, and like I said, I was proud of when I saw that you were doing your YouTube things. I know you did a Toastmasters or something, and you would post your speeches online, and I'm like, oh look, he has a podcast. Like I love that. Like you did, like you were doing something that interests you, to developed it into like a show. Like that's really cool. So you just gotta like keep doing like things that like make do something that doesn't feel like work, but you would love to do when you're not working. That is the that is what you should be doing. Like whatever that thing is, like, and you'll learn that as you like try all this interest, and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for everybody. That's something I'd kind of gotten off of track of, I think. And I'd imagine as life has its twists and turns, we sometimes forget about what is it that we want to be doing with our time and how can we make sure that we're doing more of that and less of the things that we don't want to do.
Right. Yeah, I know it's easier said than
For
done.
sure.
Um, yeah, well, I know when I was in corporate America, I wanted to do something else, but the logistics of life sometimes makes it harder. But um, I think like you just gotta like I'm not saying to just like quit your job and do what you love, but like position yourself in at least like fostering that passion and seeing where that goes, even if it means that you're gonna do more work outside your main job, and just like really seeing where that goes. Because once you find that thing, everything will feel like things make sense. And I literally like it's a life-changing experience because everything that was wrong with me in corporate America was everything that they loved when I worked in movies. And that was like humbling. Like I thought I have all these things are wrong about me, but it was actually what they loved about me. And so it's like just find being true to yourself and just kind of like understanding. It's easier said than done, like I said, but once you get to that moment, you're like, oh my god, like I'm not what's wrong.
Hmm.
It's not the right fit.
Yeah, trying to fit in with the wrong group because you feel like you need to fit in is you're with the wrong group. Go find, keep on doing different things until your group comes to you.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, it's easier said than done, right? Because like before, I'm like, okay, well, I don't like this, but what do I like? It's hard, but I think once you follow the thing that makes you happy genuinely, like things will fall into place. Because then you love it so much that you're not even like you're just doing it because you love it, and people love that energy once you find that, and they just gravitate towards it, and everyone is happy to help for the most part.
It's exciting. I have a few ideas, things I will explore with more time in the future, and I look forward to seeing how you might continue to find and integrate new hobbies and interests into your photography or whatever else that you might do. But Krisha, I know you've given a lot of your background and what interests you and some life advice, but I want to go to a final segment of the conversation. And it's your choice, a personal growth focused segment or a being wrong segment. I know you know a little bit about each of those. Which one jumps out to you and what you
Probably
want to share?
personal growth.
Okay. So what's a story from your life of growth? Hopefully something we haven't even chatted about yet, if that's something that comes to mind.
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like me moving here to the Philippines and just like finding myself in a new country and like where, like finding where I belong is like a huge personal growth. I mean, it's very like a vague, abstract thing, but I feel like everything that I did and where I'm at now is the process of me experiencing that like personal growth. Because like I never fit in back home ever in the before I knew what America was. I never fit in over there because I don't like rules. I don't just follow things to follow them. And when I moved here, it's kind of like, okay, well, where do I fit? Like I have different interests in life, but since it's an individualistic country, you can literally have different um, preferences or opinions and things, and you will fit into a group. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer it clearly, but I think my experience moving here in America and just like trying to survive and trying to achieve the impossible is like been a crazy personal growth experience. But
Is
I
it
don't know how
something
to.
is it something you draw from, like the initial reaction to being new here? Is that something you continue to draw from as you carry on? Now you've been in this country for many years. You still kind of pull from that initial experience?
Well, kind of. I mean, I think so. So for instance, like I'm not a shy person clearly, but before I could speak English very well, that was very hard because I can't speak and I want a lot of things and I'm pretty bossy and I'm like, I can't even ask for what I want. So it's like I always just, I'm like when I could speak it better, then I'm like always asking for opportunities from people that you would not think of asking. Like I just have no shame in asking for help. Um, like for instance, like when I was in high school, they put me in an ESL class, and because I was new and could not speak it very well, good intentions, but I'm like, look, I went to the principal's office and I was like, I have a proposal for you. Like, I need you to put me in a regular English class for like, let's say 8 weeks or something. If I fail, I will happily go back to ESL and learn that Okay, we'll learn about like cats and dogs or whatever. Um, but if I do well, I get to stay. Okay, so that's what I said with broken English. And he's like, that's weird, but this never happened before. No one has ever asked me this question. Put me into this, regular English class, and I like did so well. I think like 160% with all the extra credit. That they are like, do you want to be in an IB class? I'm like, no, I just want to be in a normal class. Like, I want to actually learn something and like improve and, um, and not fall behind. So my point is everything comes from like remembering where I was at and then knowing that people can help me, but I need to just ask. So coming from like a place where it's like, like things are always just impossible if I don't do the normal route that your culture is expected from you. So for me, it's like, well, I don't like that. So I'm creating my own, like journey. But now to get there, I need to like not be afraid to ask for help. So everything comes from like where I'm from and like that experience and just not being afraid to be vulnerable. I know
And
that's a convoluted answer.
I don't know that it is. I think me trying to sum it up, and this is something I tend to do when I hear someone give this type of response or a response to this in this segment, is I try to summarize what I'm hearing you say is
It's hard.
you then and now are willing to challenge yourself in a way beyond what anyone else is expecting that you should or could do. And more often than not, or usually, you succeed. So you took a class that you maybe shouldn't have been in, and then you found a way to succeed in that class rather than being put in the class they thought you belonged in.
Yeah, I'm definitely not passive. I think like so a lot of Filipinos are nurses. It's just kind of like a thing. But so for me, I'm like, you don't want me to be your nurse, honey. Like if you're sick, you don't want me as your nurse. Let's be real. So I'm like, well, but the ones that intrigue me are the unknowns, right? And like, I don't blame like my parents culturally, like why that would be like scary or something if you want to study psychology or like whatever it is. Because it's unfamiliar and the concerns are valid. But for me, it's like, okay, I don't want to compromise doing what I want to make other people happy because if I do that, I'm not going to do well in college because I'm doing something I don't want to do. So finding that fine balance of like still doing what's true to me, while making my parents feel like it's the right decision. it's like it's a tricky one, but I think it's more sustainable to follow because like it's because if you do something that you love, it's just gonna everything is just gonna make sense. Much more than if I just became a nurse because that's what people knew about. You know what I mean? Like I
That's
don't like rules.
that's I think most people will face that challenge at some point in their life of doing what is expected of them or doing what they really feel like they want to do. And it sounds like you've always leaned towards the direction of doing what you want to do and not letting someone else write your path.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the only person you need to please is yourself. And I know that sounds like self-centered and it's not, but if you do something because this person will be happy, like why does that matter? Like because they're not the one living that life, right? Like you're the one living your life. You need to be happy with what you're doing because that's the only way that something can be, can have the longevity that it deserves. It's like you're the one living your life. You need to find what's important to you and you need to do that. And if it doesn't work, you learn from it. Like none of that failure is a failure. It just helps you like understand what's gonna work and what doesn't. So my point is like don't live your life like pleasing other people. Just be a good person and just like don't be afraid to fail and ask for help. I think is the summary of the whole thing.
All that is great advice. And I think it's advice that I think most of us has probably heard before, but I think it's easy to forget. So a good reminder from you today. And I look forward to following your journey. I look forward to knowing knowing the time that you've finally moved to Hollywood, and we can probably reconnect through the
Oh,
podcast
thank
once you're
you
there.
much. Yes, and I'm excited to hear your adventure, and let me know if you need help for marketing.
No, I do, and we will have to talk about that. So
Right.
we'll get to that next.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for the conversations, and I'll have links to Krisha Studios within the podcast. Thanks, Krisha.
Thank you.